right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Games Industry Executive Summary. Casey, who usually manages all this stuff, is just enjoying a well-deserved vacation, and Manu is doing something else that I can't remember what it was, but I'm sure it's very important. It's very analytical, as it tends to be. So I am joined here by Patrick Rose, another one of our great team here at the Mighty Diamonds. You've heard him several times before, and we're going to be doing the same thing, just the two of us. How's it going, Patrick?
It's going well, and I'm happy to be part of this special edition here, the Patrick
It's
edition.
very special. We feel very special here. How's your week going? You playing anything?
Oh yeah, well, I had a visitor from Korea. A friend was here this week, and we had like a very good time. Also, I have a new motorcycle. It's my
Oh,
first
wow.
motorcycle in my life, and that is really exciting. I'm still scared riding it, but I'm getting better at it. Always trying to be careful, but it's very thrilling. So it's a special week for me indeed.
Wow, that's a really big deal. I would be scared that I have a traditional cycle, no motor, and even that scares me sometimes. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine what prompted that decision.
Oh, actually, because I'm a coward, and
Good.
I'm really scared of doing scary things. Usually, I used to be at least, and since I realized when I was like going through Asia and trying to ride some motor scooters, that's a really dangerous thing to do. And I even had these two motor scooter accidents, which weren't big ones, but it was really scary. So I decided to actually learn that thing and being able to handle the big machines. And this is why I'm doing this. And yeah, becoming a better person, I guess that is the goal.
Becoming a better person by a motorcycle. I like that. Is it like I only know so much, but I know that some have a more sporty profile and some have the big Harley style handlebars. Where does yours lie?
It's a so-called naked bike, a sporty naked bike, a Yamaha, Japanese
Hmm.
one. It's not super strong, but already pretty strong. Like what is that, 70 horsepower,
Hmm.
and it's good enough for me at the moment for sure.
Cool. I've always found Yamaha being there's a good meme at one point where someone was like, "Listen, I need a motorcycle, and I also need a mid-range acoustic guitar." They're like, "You're not going to believe this."
Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah, Yamaha
Yeah.
does a lot of different things. They also have boats and
Oh, really? I did
other
not know
things.
that.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, yeah, I'm doing good here. I'm playing a ton of Dune Awakening, which is actually on the list, so we'll talk about that later. But yeah, let's get right into it. So I think right now the when we go to the highlights, we have another one, but clearly the major thing happening as of yesterday is massive massive Xbox layoffs. We keep hearing headlines like this. This is one of the worst ones we've heard in a long time, especially because I believe Microsoft is enjoying record profits. But yeah, blood is being spilled everywhere. Perfect Dark canceled, Everwild canceled. Just pretty much everything has seen reductions. What are your thoughts?
Well, it keeps happening, right? I mean, this year or the past 2 years already, it's not easy. It's not easy for the entire economy and the entire world, and this also includes the gaming sector. But also, what we got to consider is simply that, well, games AAA area is changing. It's changing a lot, and people have to rearrange. I'm convinced we still will need these resources, these people around in the games industry, but it seems not at these spots anymore. At least not on Microsoft side.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we have two big gambits, right? One is just the Xbox itself, the Xbox Series X, which is obviously not performing to the degree that they would like it to, and the other one's Game Pass, which I believe is
Yeah.
also not performing to the
Yeah.
degree they would like it to, in many reasons, because I believe it's yoked to the Series X. So whatever internal projections were required to make this work were obviously not being hit. And then you combine that with the idea. I think it's a question whether or not it's a functional idea of whether or not you can gain all these efficiencies through AI. and then you have people looking to make big cuts. And then I feel like, as you said, it's the whole world, right? So you have this interest rate problem where people grew real big on free money, and now that the money isn't free anymore, they get a lot more timid. Even though they're making money, right? Even though this remains profitable, the division remains profitable.
Yeah,
People just get very very timid when money is more expensive, and I feel like
yeah,
that's running in the background here.
yeah. But at the same time, the revenues are not really going down. So we see in the whole industry that we're still making more and more money through there. So and we will still need these people in order to keep making these monies, right? That's what I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, consolidation is obviously a concern,
Yeah,
but people play new games. People play a wider range. You know, it's not like everyone is just playing Fortnite. There's money to be had, and it's disappointing when sometimes it can feel like short term decisions can overwhelm those notions. And also, I think the whole tech industry has been thrown a loop by the massive amounts of money flowing into AI, both money being acquired and money being lost. And my guess is when you're dealing with a company with Microsoft, that is also a background consideration that I'm not sure those investments have panned out. And so you end up having to make cuts. Well, not having to make cuts, but you end up making
right,
cuts all over the place.
right, right.
So yeah, that's we're pouring one out for everyone today, and we just hope that everyone gets a chance to keep making games because it's a tough industry. It's always been a tough industry, and so the people that survive are the people that really are passionate and want to do it, and are shockingly good at it. So we hope they can keep going with it. But
Yeah.
it's a tough day on that. Okay, another highlight. We have EA Sports announces the return of college basketball. And as I said earlier, Casey's always putting on videos and sharing a screen. I'm going to do a little bit of that, but I'm not nearly as much of a wizard at that as Casey. So I'm going to move over to let's just try this. Wait, hold on. That's a cookie screen. Share. Share. Okay, I'm sharing. I'm doing it. So, what are your thoughts?
I have never been playing much of basketball games, actually. Um,
I'm shocked. I you struck me as a gigantic basketball fan,
so
especially American college basketball. That's when I see you. That's what I think.
if I remember correctly, it is a thing people are asking for and which people enjoy, and it's going a little bit more into that casual basketball area, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And what I remember is street soccer games. What were they called? Like EA Street or something. And these have been very very popular, and people keep waiting for new iterations of this game series. So maybe it's a little bit similar here. Is it true or not? Can you tell?
No, I don't think so. I don't believe this is. I do definitely agree that I think there's an opening in the market for arcade style sports games, but this is, I believe, going to be another simulation game. Problem with historically, the problem with college games has been that there is just far too many players and teams to make the kind of yearly game cycle work in the way that it has with the professional league based teams, because then you can just update your teams and you have a pretty clear idea of it. But it's a much bigger field here. But people, college sports are a really big deal in America, and you saw
Yeah.
with I'm virtually certain that Madden. Or not Madden, that they did a American football one of these recently, and it did really well. And so this is basically the same concept. Is there are a lot of college basketball fans out there? Let's sell them a game, and I think this works, right? I don't think that you could ever do this at the yearly cadence that you have for your NBA 2Ks and your Maddens and that kind of thing. But 4 years, I guess 4 years. Well, that's length of college, ideally. That I could see it working on that. And I think that the other thing that's interesting here is that, of course, EA is not the main player in basketball, and so this is a way for them to kind of sneak in and make some money off of basketball. without without trying to go up against NBA 2K. So I think that's cool.
Right.
And I think if anyone was going to be able to do college, it's got to be EA Sports, right? EA Sports is a game development company with a lot of game developers and also a huge number of really talented lawyers and biz dev people, because that's what they're a licensing machine.
Right.
Uh, so you need an incredibly sophisticated operation in order to get this working. Is I'm not a lawyer, but that's kind of my guess.
Hmm. Got it. So they do all they do have all these licenses you're saying, right?
Yeah, or at least a vast majority of them.
Right. Right.
Yeah, at least I'm pretty sure. And yeah, and they did it for football recently. Last year, maybe. Let me just make sure I'm right about that. Yeah, college football 25, and that did really really well for them. Again, there's really committed fans here. Okay, we're gonna move on to the news. We have got in massive shakeup. Subnautica creators and Unknown Worlds co-founders have been replaced by the Callisto Protocol CEO months before Subnautica 2's early access launch. So this is a sort of a Crafton political story, is the impression I'm getting here. What do you think?
Hmm. Yeah. What do we have more information there? Do we know why things happened?
I don't believe that we have a lot of information here. This, according to Games Radar, says unclear if the departures were voluntary. They've reached out for comment. I doubt that they will. Uh, yeah, the statement that they gave. Well, Crafton sought to keep the Unknown Worlds co-founders and original creators of the Subnautica series involved in the game's development. The company wishes them well on their next endeavors. So that's a passive aggressive statement, if I've ever heard one. This sounds like political machinations here. I mean, this is a big endemic problem, I think, from some of these massive companies, Tencent, Nexon, and now Krafton is, of course, a bit of an upstart in it, but they seem to be playing similar games. Is that these are very centralized companies, and they end up making centralized decisions.
Right. But have we ever heard of Subnautica doing not so well? I mean, from my memory, like Subnautica is like doing extremely well usually. So
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, there has been some performance issues with Subnautica 2 in the beginning. I'm not sure like how far they went with that, like if they were able to fix everything. But I believe this is actually a massively successful game series by now.
yeah, definitely. Well, interesting note, actually, Subnautica 2 is not out, right? There was the Subnautica, the Frozen one, whatever the title of that was.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
that one.
that
Yeah,
is not a numbered sequel. So I think that is an important. But yeah, these are successful. They have a really aggressive, and for a long time now, a really aggressive early access strategy, which I think has built them an incredibly committed community. And so this seems like a super dangerous move from that point of view, because when you have a committed community, it's a double-edged sword. That if you all of a
right.
sudden eliminate the people that the community is loyal to, they are not only not loyal to your game, they are super pissed off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it.
Yeah, yeah. This seems dangerous to me.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah,
When is
but
Subnautica 2 supposed to release? Do we know that?
this says months before Subnautica 2's early access launch, so it's clearly proximal. I mean, they typically spend a lot of time in early access. So when it will actually launch, I don't know, but clearly it's. Let's see if we can get that here.
Hmm.
Pro Game Guide says later in 2025. I don't know if that's. Can try generating an AI assisted answer from DuckDuckGo. Yeah, I think it's just later in 2025, which of
Right.
course we don't have that much left of it. So if that is still the date, then it's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. But something we got to consider here as well is that CEO work usually is quite focusing on business administrative. task, right? So maybe that's the thing. Maybe that person was great at leading a team or like making games and such, but the bigger company grows, the more important it is to have like an expert in business administration as a CEO on the CEO level. So maybe it's much more about that rather than someone is not good at making games. But well, I haven't been able to dive deeply enough into this topic to make a judgment on
Yeah,
that.
I would say that is probably the most charitable way of looking at it. So, who knows? Maybe that's it. This I don't know. It's this again. I have not dove deeply either, but as far as the wild speculation goes, this seems dicey.
Mm,
This seems like a political move. All right, let's move on.
right.
Fans slam the altars after discovering evidence of undisclosed Gen AI in images, text, and translations. This is a really interesting one to me because I think that this is just going to keep happening. Because like people are going to keep using AI in game development. Like the you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, but also gamers hate it, and like there are certain aspects of it that come off really badly, like art, still images, sometimes voices. But I think we're going to see a lot of stories of people discovering AI functionally, and even like I bet there's uh, other things, like text to speech is a long used tool that could be considered AI, and so the fact that Valve has this tag, I wonder if they're going to need to add more granularity to that tag because I think that there's a difference between a coder using AI to help with their work as opposed to like slapping an AI image that is completely is completely user facing. It's a complex thing, and I think this is sort of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to having to make these considerations.
Mm. So I have a lot of opinions if it comes to AI, like pretty much everyone out there, I think.
Sure.
I'm usually much more, I'm a little bit of the nice guy if it comes to AI. And I don't want to like judge it all, like say it's all bullshit and we shouldn't use it and it's soulless or anything. Because I also discovered that I can actually enjoy AI contents and they can be funny. And I can also see that if you use it the right way, there's a lot of creativity flowing into the AI content. That creativity is coming from humans. They can create a lot of things much faster now, and they didn't make every little pixel like handcrafted. But I'm feeling like if I can enjoy it and if I can see the creativity there, and I like even have new impulses from that content, I don't necessarily see that it's a huge bad thing. And I'm also seeing that with other people. If people don't know it's AI, they can enjoy the content. It is rather the news that something is AI that upsets people rather than the content itself. This is what I keep realizing more and more these days. And I feel probably the more we get used to AI contents and also understand what is AI and what is not, so we're not easily getting tricked ourselves anymore because we are so sophisticated when it comes to that topic, better educated about this topic, then we are also going to be able to accept it more. Okay, that now is AI, but it's also fun, and I also see the creativity in this. I think this when we get to that point, there will be much more acceptance for AI contents, but also at the same time much more appreciation for handmade content. So I believe it's going to turn out a little bit like this. It will go into that direction. That's my current opinion on it. And by the way, there's one thing how we already start appreciating handmade content more. I've been discovering a new genre on YouTube. Maybe you have seen that as well. Sometimes while I'm working, I'm listening to lo-fi music, and there is that new genre of human-made lo-fi music on YouTube now. So
Yeah, I've seen
it
some of
looks
that.
like
Yeah,
people are actually actively searching for human made content. It's a USP. It's becoming a USP now, which
yeah.
is interesting. And
Yeah, I mean,
why
I
not
think it's
enjoying both? But yeah, yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah, yeah. I think it's an interesting thing that there's two arguments here. One is to say AI will never be able to make something as good as a human, and I think that that's a pretty complicated argument. Starting like with the definition of good, which is
Mm,
no one's got a good one there, so to speak, and so that's already difficult. And also, I think that aligns the point that I think it's not about just the thing that has been produced. I think it's okay to say that one of the things that we look for in art is a human connection to a person that made something that you can then
yeah,
enjoy, and that is an important thing that you're looking for there. Like if you tell someone some painting was made by a famous artist or an unknown artist, they will have a different connection to that, even though the content has not changed. And I think that we're going to have to start just thinking a lot more about that and how we feel about that kind of thing. And then that's sort of the philosophical and artistic side of it. And then unfortunately, you've got the other side too, is this is all going to need to square with the commercial side of things that, you know, this is not an unrelated story to the layoffs we were talking about earlier. That AI layoffs are starting and continuing, and they're going to be brutal. They're already brutal, and so then we have to ask ourselves again, what's the priority? And we could talk about AI in so many different ways if we had like universal basic income, but we don't. And so then we need to say, do we like the content? Is it okay? Does it serve a function? And is it ripping the world to pieces? And those are three ultimately separate questions.
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty certain it is going to rip the world in pieces. But we have to
Yeah.
arrange these pieces then again and adjust and understand like what to build out of these pieces. And it's not the first time this is happening to the world. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the arg there. We get this argument about the industrial revolution a lot, right? And people say like, oh, we've done this before. We have seen, you know, people thought that the world was going to end with the industrial revolution. Instead, everyone just transitioned. And I think that there is some merit to saying that things are okay now. I think there's also merit to saying that like things only sort of stabilized after a century of unimaginable violence. And
Yeah.
the argument that things have stabilized is a pretty tenuous one, also because the Industrial Revolution has managed to annihilate the natural environment in like 150 years, which it's a blink of an eye in the terms of human history, and yet the amount of damage that it's been able to do it's been able to do incredible things as well, but is staggering. So like, yeah, I think stuff like this has happened before, but I don't think that that's necessarily a ringing endorsement.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So, as an outsider, it's easy to say, but if you're part of all this and have to suffer under the consequences, it's a little bit of a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now we are moving on to Red Dead Online, which exists for one thing.
Yeah.
So that's something we all probably forgot about, which is the headline here. But yeah, look, they're doing some like basically a return to the undead nightmare
Mm.
like general idea. Which I think that's for one thing is fun. I remember writing an article at the time actually that said like that would be like the only way to save Red Dead Online was to fully embrace like the entirety of 19th century fiction. So like do Victorian horror, do steampunk, do all that stuff, and it seems like they're kind of doing that.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of things kind of along those lines, and so I'll be honest, it's not like I'm going to play this, but I do like that it exists.
Right. So, fun fact, yesterday I was at my dad's place with my motorcycle, and that there is my sister. You know her because I take
Yeah,
her
yeah,
to the
yeah, yeah. Of
conferences.
course, of
She's a
course.
game designer, right? And that game there she's playing, I'm not sure if I can zoom in now. Yeah, that is Red Dead Online. Just yesterday, last night,
What do
we
you
played.
know? Someone's playing it. What was it
Yes.
like?
Ah, it still looks amazing. It has been a while since I've been playing it, and it looks amazing up to this day. It's an interesting atmosphere up to this day. Even the online mode, it doesn't feel like overcrowded, like you have to deal with other players all the time. It feels almost like the main story, right? You just like ride through the environment and everything. And sometimes you see some other players, and if you want to, you can actually interact a lot with other players with the missions and everything. Uh, I think this is still thriving and will thrive for quite a while. And these kind of contents are going to be really interesting. I'm personally, I'm really sad about the fact that this is not a solo player content, like the red, what was it, the Dead Nightmare, right? That was the
Undead
name of
Nightmare,
the
yeah.
Undead Nightmare. That one, that was amazing at that time, and I
Yeah,
wish
it
they
was.
had anything like this for the solo player content of Red Dead 2.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's not
It's
gonna happen.
they really, because I mean the industry at large has such fond memories of Lost in the Damned and Ballad of Gay Tony for GTA 4 that it's a shame that kind of that whole concept of expanding these places has really moved solely to the online things. I think there is this
Yeah,
interesting. There's obviously a split identity going on at Rockstar where they are fully committed to this narrative experience and committed to the tune of the kind of the core of the studio's identity, and yet then they after once that's done, we're moving all the way online. Now, like I said, I've been playing a ton of Dune Awakening, and I think Red Dead, that world, I would love to see something a little more survival oriented in there, because I think the conflict of that game for me always was it was sort of systemically brilliant,
mm.
and then they built this incredible, responsive, complex, deep world, and they tied it to a story that I just didn't really care about. And then I think it was execute. It was a not. It was a kind of uninteresting story that was executed incredibly well. And so I would just love to see them really embrace their sandbox identity a little more,
Right,
which they've done in the
right.
online mode. But I think that they are just some of the most incredible sandbox designers in the world.
Mm.
And maybe I like the story of GTA 5. I think they did a lot of good work there. But I'd love to see them embrace sandbox more. They're so good at that.
That's interesting. My sister loves the story. She can't shut up about it. So she really loved the story around what is his name again? Oh my god.
Dutch or Arthur
No,
Morgan.
Arthur. Arthur. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Oh, it has been too long. So for me, exactly what you say, like the world, all the systems and everything, that was amazing stuff. But I always had the feeling it feels a little bit empty because there's not too much weight to it. Because I can do all these things, but I don't really have to. It doesn't give me like big advantages, or I don't need to do it to survive or something. As you say, the survival aspect. If this would actually have more weight, I need to do these things in order to improve and survive and such. I think that would make it more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm glad. Okay. So Outriders 2 revealed to be one of People Can Fly's two canceled games. What are our thoughts on this?
Can you share your screen, please? That would
Yep.
be helpful.
Here's out. Here's we'll look at Outriders, obviously. So People Can Fly. Don't want you to send push notifications. People Can Fly made a big publishing push that they then pulled
Yeah,
back real hard,
yeah, right.
and they appeared to have been working on Outriders 2, which nearly finished. Interesting. I mean,
Mm,
this is obviously with any canceled project, we have no idea what kind of shape it was in, what kind of chances it would have. But it is if it was a genuine sequel to Outriders in that way, and chasing a similar thing, those things are definitely it's a looter shooter, right? And that's dangerous. It's not to say you can't make a looter shooter. It's not to say they can't be successful, but it's a big ask. It's a gigantic. If you achieve mid level success, it can be a gigantic problem because then you need to keep supporting it, and you're not making money. So I could see I can see the decision. to pull back on this, if that is indeed kind of what was going on there.
I mean, I'm a product strategy guy, right? So, and if I see a game like Outriders, the first one wasn't massively successful, if I remember correctly. At
No,
least it was not doing great in terms of reviews and such. And
yeah,
I
it had
think
a big
they,
splash at launch and then kind of petered.
yeah, I think it was one advantage was that it was quite early in the PS5 era. And the graphics looked fine. I guess this is why a lot of people wanted to purchase that game. If I remember correctly, it has been a while. So, however, I think they tapped into that typical trap again, which is that they sold the game for, I think, probably also $70 at that time. I don't think it was a $40 game, right? It was like a $70 game or something, right? Do you remember that? Oh, you're muted. I don't know how that happened, but
It would have been 60. That was before the shift to 70, I believe.
right, okay. But $60, they are releasing a service game, which again is not a complete game yet in the beginning. It will become more and more complete. I mean, hopefully the core gameplay, the core loop is complete, but you have to build a lot of metagame around it to keep people busy for a very long time. And so that is also fun, right? And you can't just sell a $70 or $60 product to people that is only fun for a few hours and then it's getting boring when it's supposed to be fun for many weeks and months and such. And this is also the Concord issue, as an example, right? Concord had that same issue. They released a game that the quality was decent, the core loop worked, and there was also quite some innovation and nice ideas inside. But there was not a lot of substance to the game yet. That is, and usually in service games and free-to-play games, it is not a problem at all if you don't have a lot of substance in the beginning, unless you put that $60, $40 price tag on top of it. And that is a big issue. You don't have the chance to build more out of it. So what they did now is like they released Outriders 2. That also usually doesn't make any sense within the realm of service games or free-to-play games, because you don't release a sequel. You release a game and you keep building on top of it, make it bigger and stronger. They couldn't do that because they didn't have enough users anymore for that premium game. If it were free to play instead, they could keep collecting these users in that game and keep improving it, changing it in a way that it becomes better step by step by step, instead of, how long is it ago? The Outriders run released in 2021. So they have been working for 4 years on this already. Instead of working for 4 years on a sequel, they could have built on top of the first game step by step, making money with it, monetizing it more and more and more. But instead, they decide wasting 4 years of money, putting into eventually nothing now. And even if they released it, it would have been a high risk, and maybe they would have just repeated the scenario of the first Outriders. So I believe I have a very strong opinion on that, because I keep seeing this in the AAA industry. They are still too traditional if it comes to product strategy, and want to release like a premium title, which is actually just a free-to-play title and just a small version of the minimum viable product, basically. And people will not buy that. It's not happening.
Yeah, I think one of the main issues is that you just have, if you try and do a premium live service game, you just have so many potential failure points and almost no way to recover from any of them. So you can fail
Yeah.
at launch, right? You can always fail at launch, but
Yeah.
then unlike a traditional game, you need to keep going and you need to keep losing money. And then you
Yeah.
can try and build it up again, as you know, we used to see stories like this, Rainbow Six Siege and Fallout 76, and plenty of No Man's Sky being the archetypal one. Plenty of redemption stories, but those are all old, and those are all when live service was a more relatively new category. So the
Yeah.
redemption story sounds nice once we already know that it worked, but if it doesn't work, then you're in big trouble, because then you've just spent more and more money, and you've been in essentially full scale development for a game that is not making any money. So there's just so many ways for it to go wrong that they can be just really tough to work with. And if you eliminate one of the things, like eliminate it being a premium game, make it free to
Mm.
play, then you still have a lot of potential problems. Obviously, a ton of potential problems. You can still run out of money, but you have at least eliminated one potential failure point. And so you have it's hard to be stuck in between worlds, basically.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Struggling between the strategies, that's one of the biggest failure sources, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite examples is actually Warframe. They did really, really well. They released that kind of very generic core loop in the beginning. They always called it early access, but it doesn't matter how you call it, early access, minimum viable product, soft launch, whatever. Uh, they released that small version in the beginning. People didn't think it's a super awesome game, but it was okay for some. And then they were building on top of that. And now these days, you have a vast open world in Warframe with story, with a huge and deep story, with more and more DLCs. And it's a really, really high quality game. This is the type of game a game like Outriders wants to be like, or a game like Concord wanted to be like this, but they couldn't manage because they killed the game off in the beginning already, thanks to that price tag, instead of just following a Warframe strategy. Very strong
Yeah.
opinion here.
Though,
Sorry for that.
yeah. Though again, you've still got the issue that that's an old story. You
It
know.
is an old story, but it's being
Yeah.
repeated in mobile anyways. I see it a lot on Steam as well. Most of the time, we don't hear these stories because they don't make a huge deal out of it. They release quite silently, and we see the results of that after a couple of years, and then everyone knows about the game. Warframe, almost nobody knew that game for the first 5 years of its experience existence. Whenever I mentioned Warframe, nobody knew about it. Now almost everyone knows it.
Yeah. And it's nice to see it work. I think is always kind of plays. It's nice when it goes well. But I do worry about survivorship bias in those ways, and that it's also just as easy to throw money after something that's not working. All right,
I
moving
get
on
you.
to Obsidian. Let's share a different screen. Obsidian director Josh Sawyer says it's a mistake for RPGs to sacrifice crunchy, sweaty boy systems in favor of a one size fits all game, since easier difficulties aren't too hard to make. I love this. I've often uh, difficulty options are a thing that I have often talked about that I like. And I think that it's an interesting place to come out. Obsidian is obviously one of the premier RPG developers out there now, and we've definitely seen this trend both with Baldur's Gate, but then also like with the Oblivion remake, or people still talking about Morrowind. That there was a period when things got really streamlined, and people are beginning to go back to these sort of more obtuse, more difficult to grok, difficult to master, difficult to figure out RPGs, and they love them because you can just really fall deep into these sort of arcane systems. I like that Obsidian is committed to it, and like they say, I think that there's a from a design perspective, you can make all these systems, uh, and I think there's an interesting way in which they just kind of turn online as difficulty increases. So, like, I think the Witcher 3 was an interesting example of this. That you had like these mutations and potions, and you could do a lot of stuff with them. But if you put the difficulty down, you just kind of didn't need to, and so the system just doesn't really turn on. Baldur's Gate is a great example of this. That like there is stuff that you can kind of ignore if you just do it on story mode. It's still in the game. It's still there. You just don't have to do it because the difficulty is not asking you to, but it's there, and I think that's kind of what he's saying with this.
Hmm. Yeah, I find that interesting. I honestly, when I play these games, I'm a pretty standard player, I guess. I just have a warrior type of character with a sword and a shield and maybe a little bit of magic. I like to mix that in a little bit, but usually it's too weak and to use it then if I skill too much into warriorship. But yeah, that's how I play these games, and all the rest of the game I never really discover myself, so I'm very boring. But I do find that really interesting to argue about that, if it's worth to develop all these systems or not. For one player, probably not. For for longevity of the brand, it might still be interesting, because what people do is they create a lot of content, how to mix the best potions, how to do this and that and stuff. So what it looks like if I have that mage with combined with some other skills that are not very common to use with a mage and such things. So while it might not necessarily add a lot for a player at that moment, it might create the game a lot of additional content and virality potentially as well. So shareability is the important word here, I think.
Yeah,
So
and I think it's a question of like who. No, it's not just who the game is aimed at, but it's
yeah,
can that primary audience bring in other audiences?
yeah,
Baldur's Gate is a great example. It's aimed at like obviously hardcore CRPG people, but
right.
those people brought in. Ooh, I've switched to the wrong thing here. That's next.
It's a
But
good example though.
yeah, yeah, it is. All right, let's talk.
Because
Let's move on
Hitman,
here.
I didn't play the latest Hitman games, but I watched a lot of their contents because there's so many different things you could do. And
Yeah,
if
you
they
could
put in,
blow through,
if
or you can
yeah,
be incredibly granular, and
yeah,
kind of both are supported. And
and
it's not really a
yeah,
matter of yeah.
and I'm only watching that content because of this.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Hitman then. Let's do it. So hold on here. Ooh, that's too big. Iowa Interactive CEO estimates that Hitman 3 only cost a fifth of Hitman's 2016's budget because the studio was brave enough to stop making new bathrooms for every game. I swore never to do more toilets. I'm a big supporter of asset reuse. Anything you can do to make this stuff more efficient is it just works. And yeah, I'm glad people are talking about this more openly, because I know like gamers can like yell at you, right? They can say, oh, they love talking about lazy devs, but really you're just trying to move your resources and your creativity to the places where it's going to actually make an impact, and making new toilets isn't one of them.
Phew. From a production viewpoint, I would agree. As a gamer, I must admit, when I see the same assets repeating over and over again, I realize that, and it doesn't feel good. I'm not necessarily mad at the devs then, because I do have the same understanding like you have. It just doesn't make sense to waste your time there. But also, my brain is a brain, and it works like a pretty much regular human brain. And when I see the same stuff over and over again, my brain is getting bored. My brain always want to have like new stuff coming up, new stuff to see, and so on. This is why platforms like TikTok work, for example, I guess. Uh, and if my brain doesn't get the new impulses, it's going to be difficult. However, from a development viewpoint, I think there is ways to reuse assets or reuse things that are there, but alternate them enough, or have a system that alters them enough so that it doesn't look the same. Um, just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's it's a question of doing it smart. It's a question of just doing it all. Also, I think one of my favorite stories of kind of game dev asset reuse is that in Skyrim, all of the desks are bookshelves sunk into the ground. So it's just the top of a bookshelf and then kind of the side of it. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, next we're talking about patient gaming. Patient gaming only gets more attractive when $70 games get heavy Steam sale discounts just months after launch. I think it's a huge part of the way that this industry has been developing, is going to develop. There's you know, if you just pretend right now that it's 2024, if you just set your internal clock as far as games back, you just get such a superior gaming experience overall. You get cheaper games. You know, you already know what's good, and generally speaking, the games themselves are a lot better because they've had their first couple patches. They've had more content and all that kind of thing. It's a real challenge of kind of modern media, all writ large, that things don't decay. they improve. There's a huge amount of content. You're not really going to run out. And the only thing that you can do, the only benefit to hitting things at launch is to be part of a cultural zeitgeist. And with the kind of atomization of culture, it's harder and harder to make that happen.
Wow, that's deep.
That's me. That's what I got.
All right. I mean, I'm having a very straight forward opinions if it comes to pricing. I said it many times in the past. I think if it sells, it sells. You can complain as much as you want. If it sells, it sells. However, it might always, at the same time, even if it sells, it doesn't mean it brings longevity to your brand. So if you're very mean to the players, then it might hurt your brand in the long run. And maybe it works now, but this move now might backfire in 5 years. And I feel Nintendo now is getting a little bit into that direction. Nintendo is getting quite a lot of backfire. I don't think they are actually missing out on profit now. I think they will make a lot of profit also with Donkey Kong and everything releasing now for a high price. But people are a little bit. I got that feeling people are getting more critical with Nintendo, and it might backfire within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think the thing about Nintendo is you need a Breath of the Wild every once in a while, and I think
Yeah,
you had that with Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, and
yeah,
that bought them like a decade.
yeah, yeah.
And then they had not done something like that. They hadn't done something
Right,
definitive in that way, and you could see the erosion to the brand.
right,
And then
right.
Odyssey and Breath of the Wild reset that, and they bought themselves time. But
Yeah,
it and it's not to say they aren't still doing incredible work. Really, I mean, like Echoes of Wisdom was amazing. I actually haven't done Mario Kart World yet. As far as I gather, it's cool, but like it's not quite that singular thing, and they're messing up online a little bit.
yeah,
But it's a question of can they make something that transcends, and they have been able to do so in the past, but
yeah.
it takes some time. All right, studio shot down a Crash Bandicoot movie, says Sega of America CEO. That seems like probably. I mean, you can make a good or a bad adaptation of anything, as the old saying goes. But it's definitely easy to see how a Crash Bandicoot movie could go quite strangely.
Right. Crash Bandicoot. I mean, Sonic worked.
Sonic worked. Sonic's cooler than Crash Bandicoot. I feel like not to
I'm
dredge up
a
decades old rivalries, but
I it's a difficult one. I loved Sonic. I really loved Sonic at that time. I felt like Sonic became a little less cool in the recent years. But I also loved Crash Bandicoot a lot. But probably Sonic is still cooler. I would agree.
well, I probably would have watched it, but I won't watch it because it doesn't exist. That's the main thing keeping me from watching it at this point. All right, we are moving on to the rumors. It's just funny. It's not really a rumor. It's just a funny little point. There was a story going around that Nintendo Switch 2 has sold 5 million units, which is huge. But apparently they did not. Nintendo like mistakenly updated their investor relations page with like I think dummy numbers, and then those traveled around. They have sold 3.5 million. So it's still really good. No one's saying that's not good, but it's not 5 million.
Okay, let's see. Can I purchase a Switch 2 in Germany on Amazon? Uh, well, yes, I can.
Yeah, I think I can get. I checked this the other day. I think you can here too. I think it's why we always kind of expected this to happen. And it's with stock, you never really know, right? You never know if a shortage is because of low stock or high demand, and similarly, you never know if availability is because of high stock or low demand.
Yeah,
No one ever doubted that Switch 2 was gonna kill in the first, at launch on the first day.
right.
But now the challenge begins, and we'll see if Donkey Kong Bonanza can get that can make that narrative of this is what you need to buy it for. I hope so. It'd be great, but we won't know.
Huh. But this is interesting. It only got 3.7 stars on German Amazon Store. But maybe that is also because the price is too high. It looks a little bit like this could be they raised the price here. It's not sold by Nintendo directly. Okay. However,
It looks like I cannot buy it in the Netherlands at the moment, so there is that.
I do appreciate the Switch 2, but maybe that's also because I have a little bit too much money. Not rich yet, unfortunately. But honestly, when I use the Switch 2, it does not feel different, much different to the first Switch. And that is probably the biggest issue at the moment. So usually Nintendo's consoles, they always felt new, different, unique. This time, this is not happening, especially since I just like put all my original Switch content to the Switch 2, and then I got it all there. Yes, it just feels like a slight update at the moment.
Yeah, it's like the Switch felt pretty damn different from the Wii U, and that is not what we have done here. And I think it's really a question to see if Nintendo can make the transition to being Apple as just a purveyor of premium electronics that people want to buy and want to upgrade, crucially. And they've proved it to a certain degree, but not to the degree that it needs to be proved yet. Not to say that it can't be, but it hasn't been done yet. And I don't know. It needs that. I still feel like it needs that game.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Phasmophobia. Phasmophobia continues to kill. Phasmophobia is now a 25 million selling game.
Yes.
Give me some thoughts. What you got for me?
It had it's a type of game design I've been discussing a lot in the past with clients, that people have to cooperate. When people play together, don't make them all do the same stuff. Force them to talk to each other, to communicate, to empower this relatedness factor in these games, which is really important in human motivational psychology, behavior. And this is what they did, and they leveraged it, and it just works for them. Even though the game itself isn't super high quality, the original at least, I think they have improved quite a lot now with all the money they got. The original, it wasn't so special if it comes to production values or anything. It was even a little bit amateurish with a lot of things going on. But this initial game design idea was genius. It works so well. And you have these horror game aspects to it, which is, by the way, a very unique thing of our time now. In the past, horror games were solo player experiences. And as soon as you made a multiplayer, it wasn't really scary anymore. They achieved this thing that the game is scary, and at the same time it's a fun multiplayer experience, not overly serious, like a psychologically serious, like a Silent Hill game or something. It's just a fun experience, but still you have all that scariness, which is not only jump scares in it. It is very, very well designed if it comes to these things. And there's so much to improve on still, but that also means they have so much more opportunity to release more content on this game, or maybe their next games or anything.
Yeah, and I think I'll add that we've found, all the way back to probably Five Nights at Freddy's, one of the original examples of this, that horror content just travels really well. It's watchable. But it's watchable in such a way that you also feel compelled to experience it on your own, and I think that's been key to a lot of these things.
Yes.
All right, we've come to our last our last item of the day of this special edition. This is Retro Classics on Xbox Game Pass, powered by Antstream. Hits 1 million players. So people like retro games.
But what does it mean, 100 players? That is my first question. Because 100,
1 million.
1 million. 1 million.
Did I say 100? Yeah, 100. That would not be a great number.
I said 100. Yeah. I think you said 1 million. I had 1 million in my head, but currency exchange maybe. So 1 million it can be a high number, or maybe it's not. I have like I personally I released like 2 mobile games which had like 3 million players. Does it make me much money? No. So
Yeah, but getting people to play there's only so many people that want to play Pitfall at the end of the day.
yeah.
So I think getting people to do it is is all right.
When did it release? Does it say there?
When did it release? I can't really remember. I remember reading the headlines, but yeah, I don't know. I think it was this year.
And who are the players? I also wonder, because honestly, I mean, I keep seeing that. I have quite a lot of contacts within the community of the Gen Zs, and due to my sister, right? She's, as I mentioned before, a game design student, and I deal a lot with her co-students, and some of them edit videos for me and such. And I see what kind of games they are playing, what they like, and such. And they actually rather play games like Phasmophobia rather than these AAA games we have been mentioning before. That's rather us, the old people
Yeah,
who are purchasing all these overly expensive AAA games and then eventually don't even play them. So my sister wouldn't do that because she doesn't have enough money for that, and she sees so much value in games like Phasmophobia, which offer so much more playtime and fun for her, and for a much cheaper price. So I'm wondering here in this case, it's also really difficult for me to convince her to play Final Fantasy VII, the original, which I really wish she would play so she can appreciate the remake more. But she doesn't, because the graphics are too old, it's too ugly. I get very angry if she says Final Fantasy VII is ugly, but what can I do?
well,
That's
that
their
that was in
perception.
the hard time of early 3D graphics. We're like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's that people had gotten incredibly good at pixel art, and then they jumped into 3D, and there was definitely an adjustment period.
that is true. That is true. But I wonder how she would perceive these type of games, the retro classics. And so this would also be really interesting to understand who is actually playing them and for how long. If I would probably play this, I would have a look at it because I want to experience this again, my childhood a little bit, right? But I'm also pretty sure that I would probably not finish a single game of these. I would just have a look, and
Yeah,
that makes me
I
a
mean, it's
player
not like you're
already.
finished. No one's finishing Pitfall. You can't finish Pitfall.
Yeah, there we go. But I would be calculated as a player here, right? I would be
Oh yeah,
counted as a
certainly.
player. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the point is like, this 1 million, like we said, is not like a huge number. It's not an industry defining number, but I think this was kind of like a fun little bonus that they threw into Game Pass, and like it has hopefully justified its existence. It's a great way to give people access to playing things they would not have otherwise. And no, I could see Gen Z getting this. Gen Z is nostalgia for a time in which you did not live is a
Yeah.
recurring theme of modern society, and I could definitely see Gen Z getting into that via these.
Yeah, and actually, it makes so much sense. What I feel is they focus on fun gameplay, game time, fun game time first. And no matter how great the graphics are, no matter how much prestige is around the game, unless other Gen Zs are talking a lot about the game, then they are willing to pay at the higher price. That's what I realized. Word to mouth is so much more important these days, rather than some kind of IGN reviews or anything.
Yeah, seriously. All right, that's our list for this week. Uh, it's been fun. Thanks for joining me on this here special edition of the Games Industry Executive Summary.
You are very welcome. And at the same time, I also want to thank you for having me.
All right. It's been a pleasure. To everyone who has made it this far, remember to hit various buttons to follow, to like, to do whatever it is one must do to increase the numbers associated with this thing. And We will see you all next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.